Okay, so how do you find a doctor who is doing bad things to Social Security recipients? Well, you travel to New Jersey, and that's pretty much the whole spiel of it. Let's go to OIG. OIG right here, real quick. New Jersey doctor charged with distributing opioids in exchange for sexual favors and defrauding a New Jersey Medicaid. Well, it's just Medicaid. So bottom line is this. We got OIG over here. They're investigating this. Let's get into it. Now, I want to point something out. Once we get through the actual OIG release, remember, they just started doing this. They also included with it down here the actual complaint. Now, remember, usually these complaints are sealed. This complaint was not, and they wanted the public to be able to access it, which I think is absolutely incredible. That way the public doesn't have to go to Pacer, open an account, see if it's been completely cut off from them viewing it, blah, blah, blah. Let's get into it. All right. U.S. Attorney's Office, District of New Jersey, a New Jersey doctor was charged with distributing opioids without a legitimate medical purpose, soliciting sexual favors from patients in exchange for opioid prescriptions, and defrauding New Jersey Medicaid by billing for visits that never happened. U.S. Attorney Alina Habba announced. Ritesh Kalra, 51, of Secaucus, New Jersey, was charged in a 5-count complaint with 3 counts of distributing opioids outside the usual course of professional practice, not for a legitimate medical purpose in exchange for sexual favors, and 2 counts of healthcare fraud. Notice how there was 3 counts of distributing opioids, not for legitimate medical purpose in exchange for sexual favors. There was 3 of those and 2 counts for healthcare fraud. Kalra made his initial appearance yesterday before U.S. Magistrate Judge Andre M. Espinoza in Newark Federal Court and was released on home incarceration and an unsecured $100,000 bond. He also is prohibited from practicing medicine and prescribed medication, will be required to shut down his medical practice while the case is pending. So bottom line is $100,000 bond, released on home incarceration, and has to shut down his medical practice immediately. So they're going after him. Very spicy. Quote, physicians hold a position of profound responsibility. But as alleged, Dr. Kalra used that position to fuel addiction, exploit vulnerable patients for sex, and defraud New Jersey's public health care program by allegedly exchanging prescriptions for sexual favors and billing Medicaid for ghost appointments. He not only violated the law, but endangered lives. Our office will continue to pursue those who turn their medical license into tools for personal gain and sexual gratification. Quote, and that was Alina Habba, the U.S. attorney. Quote, when we seek medical advice, the treatment from doctors, we have to assume they have our best interests in mind. Although, to be honest, I think a lot of doctors are busy. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus here. I think a lot of them are busy. Okay, the best interest in mind, they're busy. Okay, this investigation conducted by the FBI and our partners illustrates that Dr. Kalra had little regard for actually taking care of his patients. As alleged, he instead used them for his sexual gratification, and in the process, defrauded the state of New Jersey. I really love that, we're getting to see this stuff now, because you know what I mean? Back in the day, it just wasn't really out there, And now we get to see it. We get to feel it's not just published in some back little section of a newspaper. It's it's right there. And I love that aspect of this. A patient's relationship and trust in a physician while at their most vulnerable is not something to be exploited for personal gain. We are asking anyone who may be a victim or know someone who was treated by Dr. Kalra to get in touch with our office at 1-800-CALL-FBI, stated Special Agent in Charge Stephanie Roddy. Quote, in the fight against the opioid crisis, we often witness the pain struggles of those battling addiction. Rather than offering help, Dr. Kalra exploited his victims at their most vulnerable, using opioids as leverage in exchange for sexual favors, further deepening their addiction and worsening the crisis, stated DEA New Jersey Special Agent in Charge Cheryl Ortiz. The DEA will continue to work with our partners in making sure those who abuse their professional oaths are held accountable. Scary and spicy. Quote, physicians who recklessly and illegitimately distribute controlled substances. I mean, they're drug dealers. That's what they are. Undermine critical efforts to battle the opioid crisis and betray their professional responsibility to serve the health and well-being of the public. As alleged, Dr. Kalra took advantage of these individuals struggling with addiction, all for his own personal gratification, said Special Agent in Charge Naomi Gruchez of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Inspector General. I didn't get her name right. I'm just going to be honest with you. I did not get it right. HHS OIG will continue to work with our law enforcement partners to address such abuse to protect patients, communities, and taxpayers from such dangerous conduct. According to the documents filed in the case and statements made in court, Dr. Kalra, an internist in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, allegedly operated a pill mill out of his medical office where he routinely prescribed high-dose opioids, including oxycodone and promethazine with codeine to patients without a legitimate medical purpose. Between January 2019 and February 2025, Kalra issued more than 31,000 prescriptions for oxycodone. That's a lot of prescriptions for 2019 and 2025 as a single doctor. That's a lot, including days when he wrote upwards of 50 prescriptions. Several of Kalra's former employees reported that female patients complained that Kalra touched them sexually and demanded sexual favors of them, including oral sex, in order to obtain their prescription. One patient described being sexually assaulted by Kalra on multiple occasions, including forced, I'm not going to say it because I know YouTube will have an issue with it, but it's forced sex from the backside during clinical appointments. Another patient continued to receive opioid prescriptions from Kalra when the patient was incarcerated at Essex County Correctional Facility and had no contact with Dr. Kalra. Kalra also allegedly billed for in-person visits and counseling sessions that never occurred. As a part of the healthcare fraud scheme, Kalra's electronic medical records allegedly contained false progress notes listing fabricated dates of service and included examination notes that were generally identical from visit to visit and did not record vital signs. Each count of distributing controlled substances carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison and a $1 million fine. So remember, he's got multiple counts here. Each count of healthcare fraud is punishable by a maximum potential penalty of 10 years in prison and a fine of $250,000, or twice the gross profit of loss caused by the offense, whichever is greatest. Individuals who believe they may be victims can call this number, 1-800-CALL-FBI, which is 225-5324. U.S. Attorney Hnot credited the following agencies. We're not going to go through the agencies, but basically they're OIGs, Office of Inspector Generals. They're special groups that are in charge of, Health and Human Services, SSA, all that kinds of stuff. Special agents, so on and so forth. All right, now here's the deal, okay? The government is represented by U.S. Attorney Catherine M. Romano and Jessica R. Ecker. Charges and allegations contained in the complaint are merely accusations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Now, I have a special treat for you. But please remember to like and subscribe. Please remember to like and subscribe. Let's get into it real quick. All right, over here. This is, my printer's starting to go. This is right here, the actual complaint, the criminal complaint that has not been sealed. Normally, something like this would be sealed. Now, we're going to stroll all the way over to, let me find it, hold on. We're going to scroll over to, let's see which section. Not that, here, right over here. Page 6. Overview of investigation. Let's rock through it, okay? Law enforcement had been investigating Kalra for operating a pill mill at Kalra's office. The investigation had revealed, among other things, that Kalra prescribed controlled substances, including Schedule II pain medications, predominantly oxycodone, and Schedule V narcotics, predominantly promethazine with codeine, to his patients without a legitimate medical purpose, despite knowing or having reason to know that his patients were either misusing, abusing, or diverting such medication, selling the meds, despite having no contact with the patients in exchange for sexual favors from female patients. Between in or around January 2019 through in or around February 20th, 2025, Kalra issued more than approximately 31,289 prescriptions for oxycodone for over approximately 1,500 different patients. At various times, Kalra issued upwards of approximately 50 prescriptions for oxycodone in a single day. The number of Schedule II drugs that Kalra prescribed increased over time. For instance, whereas Kalra issued approximately 1,278 prescriptions for Schedule II drugs in 2019, he issued approximately 9,000. Jesus. he issued approximately 9,760 such prescriptions by 2023, an approximately 663% increase. This is like commercial industrial pill mill right here. A large proportion of the patients who were prescribed oxycodone were concurrently prescribed promethazine with codeine, a known drug of abuse, often for several consecutive months. In addition, between in or around January 2019 through in or around February 2025, approximately 27,000, wow, 27,397 of the prescriptions for oxycodone that Kalra prescribed were for patients that, according to address information reported in NGPMP data, lived at least approximately 25 miles from Kalra's office. At times, more than one of Kalra's patients lived at the same address and received prescriptions for a controlled substance from Kalra on the same day. So, man, there was a lot wrong with this situation. There was a lot wrong. According to several of Kalra's former employees, many pharmacies refused to fill customers' prescriptions that were issued by Kalra due to concerns about, among other things, his prescription practices, including his practice of prescribing oxycodone concurrently with promethazine with codeine. Consistent with the former employees' statements, a large proportion of Kalra's prescriptions were filled at the same few pharmacies, including one located in Jersey City, New Jersey, the Jersey City Pharmacy. A little back area there. Hey. My goodness. This is not good. According to several of Kalra's former employees, Kalra's female patients complained that Kalra touched them sexually and demanded sexual favors of them, including oral sex. Female patients reportedly told the former employees that they engaged in this conduct with Kalra to obtain prescriptions from Kalra for controlled substances. Additionally, several former employees reported hearing sexual sounds coming from a room in Kalra's office during Kalra's appointments with certain of his female patients. I wonder if he's married. Very spicy situation. Patient 1 was a female patient of Kalra from approximately December 2020 until approximately August 2023. When patient 1 began seeing Kalra for her doctor's appointments in or around December 2020, she was approximately 28 years old. So, keep in mind, he was like latter 40s, early 50s. According to NJPMP data, during an approximately 32-month period from in or around December 2020 to August 2023, Kalra prescribed opioids to patient 1 at least approximately 34 times. That seems like a lot, but again, you have to consider like how many times he had to re-prescribe. I don't know. That seems like a lot. The vast majority of these prescriptions were for oxycodone, generally approximately 90 to 120 pills per prescription with a daily MME of between approximately 45 and 60, i.e. around the threshold of approximately 50 MME, at which CDC guidelines recommended that physicians carefully reassess evidence of individuals' benefits and risks. So in other words, the CDC is like, guys, doctors, if you're giving your patient this, you need to reassess because this is too much likely. Again, everybody, please remember to like and subscribe. Next, Kalra sexually assaulted patient 1 during certain of her doctor's appointments between approximately early 2022 and August 2023. So basically, he got her hooked on 2020 and 2021. And then when she was like, hey, I need him in 2022 and 2023, that's when he started specifically asking for sexual favors. Specifically, in at least one instance, Kalra closed the door to a patient's examination room in Kalra's office and instructed patient 1 to pull down her pants, pulled down his own pants, and inserted his into her, the backside, if you know what I mean. In at least 2 other instances, Kalra closed the door to Kalra's personal back office area in the back of Kalra's office and similarly instructed patient 1 to pull down her pants, pull down his pants, and inserted his into the backside of her Kalra repeatedly instructed patient 1 to be quiet and not to tell anyone about his conduct. When patient 1 resisted Kalra's assaults, Kalra told patient 1 in sum and substance that patient 1 needed to engage in sexual conduct with Kalra in order to receive her prescriptions. Very spicy. When patient 1 refused further sexual assaults by Kalra in exchange for prescriptions, Kalra ceased prescribing patient 1 medication, including her controlled substance prescriptions, formally discharged patient 1 as a patient, and refused to communicate with patient 1 regarding her prescriptions despite multiple attempts by patient 1 to do so. Patient 2. Patient 2 is a female employee and a patient of Kalra from at least in or around March 2022 until August 2022. When patient 2 is approximately 25 years old, so he's got, essentially a preference. Specifically, let's see what he did to the 25-year-old. Patient 2 made an appointment with Kalra for a doctor's appointment in or around March of 2022. At patient 2's first doctor's appointment with Kalra, Kalra asked to see patient 2's breasts and asked patient 2 whether Kalra could do things to them. When patient 2 told Kalra that this was inappropriate, Kalra asked patient 2 if she was recording him. But before patient 2 left Kalra's office that day, one of Kalra's employees asked patient 2 if she was looking for a job. The employee told patient 2 that Kalra's office would pay patient 2 more than she was making at her current job. I guess 2 more is twice what she was getting. Patient 2 agreed to work at the front desk of Kalra's office and continued as patient of Kalra's during her employment. Kalra regularly prescribed opioids and promethazine with codeine to patient 2, despite conducting almost no physical examination of patient 2 during her employment at Kalra's office. During an approximately 18-month period between or around March 2022 and September 2023, Kalra wrote patient 2 approximately 17 prescriptions for oxycodone, 24 prescriptions for promethazine with codeine. Of the oxycodone prescriptions, approximately 13 of the 17 prescriptions were high-dose prescriptions with a daily MME of approximately 90, creating an increased risk of misuse or overdose. At one point during her employment at Kalra's office, patient 2 overheard Kalra arguing with a female patient. The female patient accused Kalra of inappropriately touching women and threatened to sue Kalra. In approximately August of 2022, patient 2 got into an argument with Kalra and was fired. Patient 2 did not see or speak to Kalra again. Despite the fact that patient 2 did not see or speak to Kalra again from in or around September 2022, in or around September 2023, Kalra continued to prescribe opioids and promethazine with codeine to patient 2. So I guess he was trying to smooth it over or something. I guess it was just a horrific situation. He was trying to smooth it over. On or around June 30th of 2023, patient 2's insurance plan sent Kalra's letter regarding potential clinical concern, opioid risk management, high-quantity prescription of oxycodone. Despite this correspondence, which was included with Kalra's electronic medical records for patient 2, Kalra continued to prescribe opioids to patient 2. Kalra's falsified progress notes in his electronic medical records for patient 2 for purported dates of service are about September 21st, 2022, November 21st of 2022, December 29th of 2022, January 31st of 2023, with a bunch of other dates. Despite not speaking to or examining patient 2, basically he just kept prescribing them. The progress notes appear to contain identical examination notes for each visit with no recording of vital signs. The progress notes contain a general medical history of back pain and neck pain and a primary diagnosis of issues with multiple sites in the spine with sciatica. Despite having no direct contact with patient 2, Kalra billed Medicaid for a total of approximately $2,044 for office visits and counseling purportedly provided to patient 2 on or about September 21st, 2022, and a bunch of other dates. Kalra falsely billed these purported office visits under the codes, including the following: established patient office or other outpatient visit, 30 to 39 minutes, preventative medical counseling, typically 15 minutes, and established patient periodic preventive medicine examination. You think it would stop there? It doesn't. He goes on to patient 3. Okay, patient 3. Kalra consistently prescribed opioids, promethazine, with codeine to patient 3 from at least in or around October 21 through at least in or around December 2023. From at least in or around May 2023 to September 2023, patient 3 was incarcerated at Essex County Correctional Facility. Kalra nevertheless continued to prescribe opioids, promethazine with codeine to patient 3 despite having no contact with patient 3 during that time. While incarcerated at ECCF, Kalra never examined patient 3, and patient 3 never received any of the prescriptions that Kalra wrote for him. Nevertheless, NJP data indicates that nearly all the prescriptions that Kalra wrote for patient 3 were filled by the Jersey City Pharmacy, where numerous other Kalra patients filled prescriptions. Kalra's electronic medical record system contained false progress notes, purportedly reflecting dates of service for patient 3 of on or about June 7th. And then they go on and gone. Kalra billed Medicaid for several approximately $799 for services purportedly provided to patient 3 on or about July 7, 2023, August 8, 2023, and September 6, 2023, while patient 3 was incarcerated at ECCF. Throughout the period during which Kalra prescribed controlled substances to patient 3, patient 3's insurance plan sent Kalra letters on approximately 6 different occasions, indicating potential clinical concern as to Kalra's prescribing practices for patient 3, including with regard to the number of pharmacies at which patient 3's prescriptions were filled, the combination of medication that were prescribed, and the high doses of opioids prescribed, including prescription with a daily MME value of 90. Despite this correspondence, which was included with Kalra's electronic medical records for patient 3, Kalra continued to prescribe opioids to patient 3. During the approximately 28 months period from in or around August 2021 through December 2023, Kalra prescribed opioids to patient 3 approximately 22 times and prescribed promethazine with codeine to patient 3 over approximately 30 times. Okay, so bottom line was this is a massive pill mill situation. Abuse of women, not a good situation. In total, Kalra prescribed over approximately 3,500 pills containing at least approximately 36 total grams of oxycodone to patient 1. Despite sexually assaulting patient 1, Kalra prescribed over approximately 900 pills containing at least approximately 25.8 total grams of oxycodone to patient 2, and at least approximately 3.4 total liters of promethazine with codeine to patient 2, despite seeking sexual contact with patient 2 and conducting cursory medical examinations or no examination at all of patient 2. While patient 3 was incarcerated, Kalra prescribed over approximately 200 pills containing over approximately 7 total grams of oxycodone and over approximately 800 milliliters of promethazine with codeine to patient 3. As outlined above, Kalra distributed controlled substances outside the usual course of professional practice and not for a legitimate medical purpose. Now, let me tell you what normally happens with these. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But usually there will be a lineup of women that will come forward and say, they'll talk about abusive contact and things like that. But remember, in these situations, what happens is the women are usually scared to come forward because a lot of them are getting the pills and using the pills or selling the pills or abusing the pills. So if they go forward and they say, this guy did this, then they're also kind of then under the knife, if you will, about using and abusing the pills. Now, some will say the doctor shouldn't have prescribed them. They shouldn't have access to them. It's not their fault. But to some degree, I think we can all agree, you know what I mean? There is some fault to be attributed to this situation. This is not the first time I've seen stuff like this. It's uncommon. It's just not super ultra uncommon. Unfortunately, what happens with this stuff is that they get stuck. And these are high level drugs, you know what I mean? And they have to keep using them. And so as a result of that, he was playing the game where he got to do stuff because they needed him. Remember, these are the women that complained. These are the ones that stood up. There were lots that I'm sure have been quiet. I don't know that though. I don't know. Could have been. But we'll likely see a growing of the list of individuals as the prosecution continues. It's going to be a spicy situation. We just don't know what's going to happen. All right. So something to keep in mind. Now, how does this all come back to Social Security? By and through this, as they get more people, you might see abuse of Medicaid. You might see abuse of Medicare. You might see abuse of people, giving him money potentially. I mean, we don't know, to basically give them the prescriptions. And some of that money might have come from Social Security benefits. You don't know. You just don't know. We don't know what's going to come of this. But this is a likely situation where you will see some sort of Medicaid fraud or potentially Medicare fraud as well. Now, as you guys know, I don't do Medicare. That's not my thing. I am the most viewed, subscribed to, and clicked on disability attorney in America. I represent clients for that. So if you need disability benefits, call me during the 9 to 5 at the law firm. Please remember to like and subscribe. Head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Throw some stars up there if you enjoyed the video. If you're looking for Medicare or basically for a tune-up where you call an insurance, broker type group that basically looks at whether or not you have a really good plan, give this group a call. They sponsor some of these videos. And the bottom line is I've teamed up with them because they can go ahead for a free call to you, do a tune-up on your Medicare and see if you need a different Medicare program. Okay. Just give them a call here or use the special little link here. Okay. Bottom line is this. I will catch you all a little bit later. Please remember Mondays and Tuesdays, I go live to answer Social Security disability questions for free. And then of course, below, we're going to be having tomorrow a new contract where I'll be doing basically, 1 hour or 30-minute sessions where you can buy 30 minutes or an hour to access my brain and talk about your situation. All right. I will catch you a little bit later. We'll go from there. Attorney Walter Hnot. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and we will rock and roll from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.